To begin my oil pastel worksheet, I have one of each of the colors plus a paper towel. To start my first section, I'm going to do a value scale. You want to choose one color but have 4 different values. I have white, yellow, a dark yellow, and I'm going to use brown for my darkest value when I'm shading with yellow. If you're using a color like blue, you can use black as your darkest value, but you always want to have 4 oil pastels for this section. I'm going to start by cleaning my oil pastel. You always want to do this to make sure that you're not going to get unwanted colors out on your paper, especially when those oil pastels have been sitting in a Ziploc bag. I'm starting with short horizontal strokes, and I'm not using a lot of pressure. I'm using a light pressure. Then I'm going to go in with my next value, my yellow, and I'm going to slightly overlap the yellow on top of the white. I want to get a nice blended look. Sometimes people think that you should use your finger to blend those colors together, but that's not what you do with oil pastels. With oil pastels, you're going to go back with your previous value or your previous color of oil pastel, and you're going to add another layer on top, and that will blend your 2 values together. Now I'm going to continue my yellow a little bit further into my box. Again, I'm not saturating my paper yet. I'm using a light pressure. And I'm going to go in with my next value of my darker yellow, and I'm going to slightly overlap that on top of my lighter value of yellow. Again, I want this to look like it's blended. I don't want to see the seam where the transition is from light to dark yellow, so I'll go back with my regular yellow and blend that out by adding another layer of the pastel on top of it. You need to keep repeating this process until your paper is saturated. That means that you're not seeing any of the white paper showing through underneath. Once I have my light yellow and my medium yellow blended out, I'm now going to go in with my brown value, and I'm going to start layering that over top of my darker yellow so that I get a nice smooth transition. Again, I'll come back with my darker yellow and I'll blend that out until I have a nice seamless transition from light to dark yellow. You do not want to see any of that white paper showing through, so make sure that you repeat that until your paper is completely saturated. Using a horizontal line direction will make it much easier to blend your colors than using a vertical line direction. So now I have my value scale that is seamlessly transitioning from light to dark in my first section. For the second section, we're going to practice transitioning from one color to another color. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to decide 2 colors that are similar to each other or close to each other on the color wheel, and I'll transition. So I may go from light blue to dark blue and then go from red to pink. Again, you want to have 4 oil pastels. I'm pretty much going to do the exact same thing that I did in the first section, where I'm using my horizontal line direction, I'm overlapping my colors, I'm using a light pressure until I layer enough to get that saturated. As you can see, I have a nice seamless transition from blue to pink now. In this next section, I am going to use one color again. So choose one color and 4 different values. I have white, light green, dark green, and I'm going to use black as my darkest value. What we're going to practice next is how to make a cylinder look 3-dimensional. So I want to shade this in from light to dark. Notice that I'm switching my line direction. Although I am still working in short oil pastel strokes, I want this to look like it's going from light to dark from top to bottom. And I also want to follow the contours of the cylinder. So I'm going in with light pressure, short pastel strokes. I'm starting with my white. I'm cleaning my light green, always cleaning your oil pastels in between or every time you're going to use it. And now I'm going to go in and I'm going to slightly overlap my light green on top of my white. Again, notice the curved line direction that I'm using. I'm trying to make this cylinder look like it's 3-dimensional. Once I have my light green slightly overlapped, I'm going to go back with my white. I'm going to blend those 2 values together. And then I'm going to go ahead, once those are blended together, I'm going to take my darker green and I'm going to slightly overlap that on top of my light green. Again, still using a lighter pressure, and I'm using that curved line direction. Now I'll go back with my light green and I'll blend the light and the dark green together to get that nice smooth transition. Notice how I got a little bit of black accidentally on there? You can easily just scrape that out when that happens. That's the nice thing about oil pastels, and color right back over top of it. Once I have my light and my dark green blended together, I'm going to go in with my black. Black is a very strong color. It has a lot of contrast with my other green. So I want to use my black very sparingly. If you use too much of the black, it's going to completely overtake your other colors. That's why you don't want to use black when you're blending with yellow or orange. You always want to use brown when you're blending with yellow or orange. I'm going to go in with my darker green and I'm going to blend that black out so that it looks like it's just transitioning and adding shadow to the bottom of that cylinder. For the front side of the cylinder, I'm going to go in with my values of white. I'm going to make it fade from light to dark as it goes from the top to the bottom, still using my short strokes, still overlapping my colors, still saturating and making it look blended out. I do want to see the edge of that side of the cylinder, so I may use my black and bring it up a little bit higher on the sides just to show the edges of that cylinder and make the front look like it's separate from the sides. The last thing that you're going to do on the bottom part of the worksheet is practice making a circle look like a sphere. So I want you to choose at least one color. If you want to practice going 2 different colors, that's okay too. I'm going to be using orange. Remember, I'm going to use a dark brown to blend out my orange instead of black because orange is a lighter value or color, so brown is going to look better for my shading with orange. Notice the line direction that I use for my sphere.